Paltrocast. Tania, how's your day going besides talking to me?
Good. You have a standing desk, Darren, don't you?
I have a mat underneath me. I have a desk that I turned into a standing desk. You do not. Or do you when you're
Oh,
not
do you
doing
have do you have one of those walking treadmills that they're advertising on TikTok? You know, the ones that you can slip under your desk?
I want that, but do you know anyone who's actually done that or had that?
I have no idea. I admire your setup and your bookshelf and your house. Your place is awesome.
I'll tell my wife you said so because there's sometimes doubts as to whether or not this is efficient. But we're not here to talk about my home space. We're here
All
to
right,
talk
fine.
about Walden. When did
Yes.
you actually film Walden?
We filmed Walden, I think sometime in July of last year, I believe. So it's been a relatively quick turnaround, only a year or so. For an indie film, that's good. Yeah.
That's
I'm happy.
excellent. Some of these junkets that I do, 2019 is still the answer. And you go, okay, that's
Yeah, because of COVID, I know. Well, this was one of the first things that I did after right after Goliath. I mean, we finished the last season of Goliath
mhm.
in 2020, I think. 2020, yeah, and then it aired in 2021. And then everything kind of stopped and then Walden came along. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Goliath and all that, I think you hold the record for most syndicated shows going on at the same time.
Is that true?
You
No.
probably do at this point between Malcolm and Lost and all that. But either way, uh, great cast for Walden, yourself included. Who had you
Thanks.
worked with before from it?
I hadn't worked with anyone before. The only person I knew was the casting director, who her name's Shannon McCanyon. She's wonderful and awesome, and she has great taste. And she sent me the script. But beyond that, I didn't know anyone. But I was huge fans of everybody's work. Like I remember seeing Emil on for in Into the Wild, and Shane. What did I see Shane on? I think a couple TV shows, Nikita among others, and just knew of him and always thought he was a great actor.
A Walk
And
to
then Kelly.
Remember or The
Oh yeah,
Germ?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, sure. Oh yeah, What We Do is Secret. That's it. That was it. That was that. It was that one about the germs. But Kelly Garner especially, like I've always loved her and like followed her career. I just thought she was a fantastic actress ever since The Aviator, and then her Marilyn with Susan Sarandon, I thought was like the best Marilyn ever. And she's just a total sweetheart and awesome actress, and I just was so happy to meet her. So she's rad. So I love the casting. Yeah, I thought it was a really fun, quirky, like kind of esoteric group of actors, and like really wanted to be a part of it.
For you playing a detective, was there a lot of extra prep needed?
I mean, you do the best you can. I've never played a detective before. I have played a cop a couple times on a couple things here and there. What was nice about this, it was like less about the cop stuff and more about the relationship between the two detectives. And so for me, what was most important was to have like a realistic shorthand with Shane. And because didn't know each other, we only had like a day to kind of like have
Oh,
coffee and talk about the script. And then we started shooting right away. But thankfully, it all worked out and we got along really well, and it was super fun. And I just kind of leaned on that.
you never know when people are playing the detective, the investigator, the cop, etc., if they immerse themselves in a 6 week tailing a local precinct, or they just go, it's a good script. I think I'll follow it and I'll ask what the director wants, and that's that.
I mean, typically, if it's not, well, it just depends on what you're doing. But typically, if there isn't too much cop stuff, meaning like really technical crap with guns and like raids and things that you would really need to look not stupid for, oftentimes there'll be like a technical advisor on set that can tell you, like, listen, don't hold the gun like that. You look ridiculous, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then you try to sort of, just, I guess, imitate what you've seen on TV a million times. But, thankfully for this was more of it's not a quiet drama, but for the cop part of things, it really was more about the relationship between the characters.
Did you have the onset technical advisor for detectives?
We did not, but there's a lot of tough ass guys on set that know how to shoot and carry guns. So I think we were we were in the South, so we were
Mhm.
covered. You know, yeah.
I find it funny. I'm an investigator for a living besides all these interviewers.
You
And
are?
yeah, and what
Oh,
people think a PI does is exactly the opposite. A lot of them are just people behind a computer like me that are looking through
right,
records and go, look into that, and
right.
here's the report. Like they're closer to writers, researchers than they are
Mhm.
badasses in the streets.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the sad truth, isn't it?
So back to you here. Walden to us is a new movie. To you, it's kind of an old movie, even though it came out quick for an indie. Are we allowed to know what's next from you? Because sometimes you're on TV, sometimes you're in movies,
Yeah.
etc.
I've got a couple little films also that were sort of stalled before COVID that are in kind of some release uh, pattern to be announced at some point. We also had a strike that lasted quite a while, and
Right,
so which is I'm so glad we're talking now because none of this was allowed until now.
right.
And so a lot of things that I was going to do or looking into that were kind of pushed or put on hold seem to be picking back up again, TV projects, etc. So I'm hoping that like something in the TV space will happen soon, but because it's so early, I can't really say anything. But I'm looking forward to going back to work for sure, as I believe every single other actor on this weird planet called Hollywood is.
Well, what do you do when you're not busy with the acting craft?
I write. I write. So I'm a writer and a director also. I'm working on a project. My mom is from Corsica, which is like an island in the south of France where Napoleon's from.
Hmm.
And I'm writing like a fantasy series that takes place there because I spend like every summer there and my whole family lives out there. There's a lot of myth and magic in Corsica and all sorts of cool stuff. And then I've written a lot of other TV pilots that are in various stages of like development. So when I'm not acting, I'm always trying to put together a project or do something.
So IMDb has bad art without you in cell division as the director credits. Is there a lot more than that that we, the ignorant people, don't know about?
I mean, like anybody, there's like a million in development things that may or may not happen at some point. But I am working with some um some of the producers from Goliath on a pilot that I wrote, that I hope now that the strike is over, we're gonna be able to get back to it, hopefully. And that's like a funny half-hour comedy set in LA.
Oh,
Or something else, perhaps. Uh the one nice thing about being an actor, well, the nice
just
part
just
of it,
one nice thing, nothing else.
well, no, but the nice part of not working all the time, let's say if you've had a break, is that you
Yeah.
can be writing and thinking about stories that you want to tell too. And I think it's a really exciting time for a woman to do that kind of stuff. And we've had a strike, so what are you going to do anyway? Nothing's happening. So yeah, so I spent a lot of this last summer on various scripts, and so we'll see. Hopefully this year will be busy. I hope so.
And the last question, which is a softball before I let you go. What's the last concert that you went to for fun?
Last concert I went to was Danny Elfman and Fred Armisen at the Hollywood Bowl performing Nightmare
Nightmare
Before
Before.
Christmas live. Yeah, yeah. It was
Did that have
awesome.
Weird Al in it?
No, no, I wish. Oh, that would be so cool. No, Fred Armisen was in it. Who else came up? Was there Catherine O'Hara one of the nights? I can't remember. But Danny Elfman performed the entire thing live. I mean, every single song. There was like 80,000 people there. It was out of control.
That's a lot of people to be in one place at one time and not lose your cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
credit to
yeah.
you on that one. But
Thanks.
bottom line, congrats on Walden. Looking forward to the writing and directing projects as well.
Thank
Just
you.
thank you for the many years of great art.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. That's nice.
Paltrocast.
Wes, how's your day going aside from having to do media and answer the same questions over and over and over again?
That's been excellent. Thanks. I found all the interviews interesting and just been working on some new music.
Well, that new music, The Wolf, is something that's gotten a lot of people talking because great music video, which you star in. The song was co-written with Keith from Breaking Benjamin, one of the biggest rock bands of right now. How did you and Keith first connect?
My manager Blasco had arranged a series of writing sessions, and Keith was one of the individuals I was had an appointment made with, and we still to this day are just very, very glad that connection was made.
Now, I didn't know that Blasco was your manager. How many job titles does Blasco have? Because producer, songwriter, manager, bassist, I believe, etc.
And philanthropist is everything. He's amazing, Blasco. I will never forget how lucky I am to be working with him. And I asked Rob Zombie who he thought was be a great manager for me, and he introduced me to Blasco.
Now, the more you get to know Blasco, do you still call him Blasco? Does it become Blas for short?
Still Blasco.
Okay. And so how many songs is The Wolf part of a batch of? In other words, you did all those writing sessions. Are there 20 songs and you're thinking of paring it down to an album, or are you one at a time, one single at a time?
The Wolf was done as one in one. It's its own thing. But I have like 5 to 6 songs that I've done since let's say the Prehistoric Technology album I did, and the Wolf time. I had done quite a few songs, but 5 or 6 have made the cut, I think, and definitely want to incorporate those with the Wolf, plus write a few more and maybe have a nice 12-track album or something.
Interesting thing about The Wolf, I mean, there's many interesting things about it, but it starts off with the piano, but it's obviously a guitar-driven song. Was the piano an afterthought? I'm sorry, I can't speak today. Was the piano an afterthought, or did it actually start on the piano?
The piano was definitely with us because when I made the song with Keith, I had my piano with me, my upright Steinway, or my grand Steinway rather, and he had his keyboard and guitar and everything. So we definitely made it with the piano in mind.
When did music start with your whole journey? Because you have a lot of acting credits, and we do see that there's an upcoming film where you're composer and actor, so they bleed together in a good way. But did you start off playing as a teenager in garage bands?
I definitely would say my career started as a musician when I was a teenager. About 13 years old is when I started to, I've been playing since I was 8, but 13 is when I started to like really practice so I could be a professional musician. And by 16, I was doing my first album. So I'll say about then, but yeah, luckily now, my acting and my music, they're both these parts of my career, they're benefiting each other, which I really have always wanted to see. I've always wanted to see that happen, where my acting would propel my music and my music would propel my acting.
And also the MMA propels that all. And I mentioned that because I did a junket for a movie that we saw you in, Mojave Diamonds, which had Chris Cyborg. It had some other great MMA people in it. So it's pretty cool that you're able to blend the music, the film, and the MMA. Is that accidental? Is that organic? Or do you go, in order for me to do this project, it has to have all the stuff I love?
I think that happened itself by law of attraction or something. When I was a little boy, my youngest memories are doing martial arts. So it's like really martial arts, particularly MMA, acting, and music were the 3 main art forms that just I've always been doing. There's also some I'm also pretty I would say competent chef and other things too, but the 3 main ones are music, acting, and martial arts.
There's the cool photo, or I'm sorry, the cool video of you on Instagram with the good German suplex / takedown from your amateur wrestling days. I didn't know that about you before going through your social media. So are you a retired MMA fighter, or do you think we might get you out of retirement in the future with the right offer?
Well, my last fight was 2018. I won heavyweight champion in Las Vegas at a competition that had sambo, combat sambo wrestling. So I probably have a few more in me, and I definitely want to do, give everyone an amazing knockout one day that, they can all watch. But I love doing that movie Mojave Diamonds, that because it had all those MMA fighters, and I have a background in that. Also, that's the film that really is a diamond because it introduced me to my fiance, who's my absolute soulmate, woman I've been looking for my entire life, and the woman I was looking for in other people and could not find. So luckily, she was the costume designer on that, and yeah, shortly after we made that movie, we stayed friends, and I proposed to her.
And you had a great tribute to your fiance on social media when you had the custom shirt of her face made, the mall style. What do you call those stores? The screen printing kiosks. Did you do one of those at a shopping mall?
She got it for me because she knows that I wanted a shirt with her on it. Like I had to have that. And then she can have one of me with a really scary look of mine or something for all the, because a lot of, guys look at her and stuff like that, and when she's working and stuff, so, to know that she has an intense fiance.
Well, when we're talking about all these interests of yours of MMA, which you said there might be more fights, we know that there's upcoming acting related projects from IMDb. There's this new single through Pavement Entertainment, and there's more songs. What are you? What I mean, when someone goes, "Hey Wes, what do you do?" What do you say at this point?
Well, if they understand polymath, that's the best, I think. But I say I'm an actor, multi-instrumentalist, pretty much. That does MMA. I mean, I've been working on my own martial art for a long time that I've been kind of creating and writing down all the moves. It's more of a self-defense system. When I was about 20, I was intoxicated, and everyone says I tried to attack a personal trainer, but it was not a personal trainer. It was my personal manager. And I had gotten kicked in the balls, which is something that I didn't even think, it didn't exist in my world because I was a martial artist only. And that completely threw my black belt and all at that time, 20 years of my martial arts away. It didn't matter that I had that, or no, sorry, 17 years of martial arts. And I basically started writing my own system and training in self-defense, like Krav Maga and Sambo.
That is an underrated aspect of it all. I mean, I love Van Halen, and when Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth had their problems in the mid '90s, Eddie did this interview where he said, "The next time that Dave sees me, he better be wearing a cup." So I think that you are ahead of the game on that one.
Yes.
Sorry for the bad joke right there, but back to the music thing. Do you have live shows on the horizon?
Absolutely. I think that we're going to be doing some festivals and live shows for sure.
And would it be the kind of thing, because you are a solo artist these days? Sometimes we do see like Yngwie Malmsteen. He's just on stage playing the tracks with a wall of Marshall amps. In your case, would it be a band that you're fronting?
It would definitely be a band I'm fronting. Yeah. And of course, my usage of backing tracks is never for vocals or for things that can be done live. It's only for the industrial and symphonic or effects that we have in the background the drummer needs to play to, because we couldn't hire a billion musicians to play each and every little sound that we record, but
Now, you mentioned Rob Zombie before because we were talking about Blasco. Rob Zombie was clearly influenced by Ministry. Who was your band that entered you into loving industrial music?
I would say Rob Zombie, Rammstein. Those two really got me into the industrial sounds and really made me enjoy that. Of course, Nine Inch Nails as well.
Did you go from top 40 to industrial, or is there a detour first into hip hop?
Well, I did when I was a kid have my phase where I was listening to a lot of Eminem and stuff like that. But I think that my love for heavy music was a little stronger than that. Yeah, I just love the heavy industrial and heavy metal. Even I remember when I was a kid, I heard heavy music in my head, and I didn't know what it was called or how to ask someone, like, how do I hear metal? I didn't know it was called metal. So one day I heard a soundtrack in Mortal Kombat when Scorpion and Johnny Cage are fighting in hell, basically, and this huge power chord was played on a down-tuned guitar, and I remember that was like, oh, that's the kind of music I want to make.
Was that the original Mortal Kombat that had Seven Dust before they were called Seven Dust on it?
I think so.
Got it. And then what was your upbringing in terms of concerts? Did you go to a lot of concerts first?
I went to a lot of concerts. I saw Gypsy Kings when I was younger, but when I started to know which bands I loved, I went to System of a Down concert that really affected me, and Metallica.
So you got started like really early on the heavy stuff. There was no gradual thing. That's a very unique process because I find a lot of the metal people were top 40, then punk rock, then metal.
Yeah, and when I was like 14, when someone introduced me to like Cradle of Filth and black metal, that's when I was like completely baptized in black metal fire. I became a black metal member of the culture. It was huge. That was pretty major for me, going from kind of a goth kid to black metal. And then it's such a, it has its controversial elements, and it's probably one of the few genres of music that people could probably consider dangerous or something like that. So it was frightening for some people, but definitely necessary.
Right. To be clear, you liked black metal, but you didn't burn down churches.
Right. And I remember, though, when I would be on tour, when I got taunted and stuff like that for coming from a wealthy family or something, I'd always think, is it my chance to really earn my place as one of those guys that did something crazy with one of these, and then I was like, nah, I'm not going to go to jail.
I don't blame you, but in terms of the family thing, a non-obvious question, something that I'm ultra curious about. I grew up a big fan of Phantom Planet and Rooney. People don't usually associate that with being part of the family. Did them having record deals at a young age inspire you at all? Is that something that you even talked about?
Totally. I mean, Jason Schwartzman, my cousin and also the drummer from Phantom Planet, he showed me my first drum beat. He got me playing a straight 16 note drum beat, and showed me how to use the kick, snare, and hi-hat properly to make beats.
Wow. He's a very underrated drummer, also great singer and guitar player. And Robert had a record deal when he was, what, 15?
Yeah.
So that intrigues me so much because they were peers with Kara's Flowers, aka Maroon 5. Were you in that world too by default?
Well, I was definitely around it and saw their success. I love Rooney and I love Phantom Planet, and I also really love how my aunt Talia raised those two amazing boys, the two amazing men that they are now. She was always a very encouraging mother, and would evoke creativity just like my mother and father. They naturally in my family, we're all kind of genetically programmed to be artists, but the way we kind of do it is just to have the instruments and all of the mediums around the child so that they can become one of us.
Oh, and think of all the great movies and also the music videos by Roman, etc. Hey, we love the Coppolas. There may be a Raising Arizona poster there. That there may or may not be, but the bottom line is, Wes, you're keeping the family proud and you're doing great art. The MMA stuff is inspiring because you don't come into MMA as a bloodthirsty kind of person. You come in for the right reasons, it seems. So I'm really looking forward to whatever you have coming next. And what is the next thing that we should be looking for?
Well, thank you so much. And the next thing that we should be looking for definitely is what'll come next musically with the Wolf, the things that will be attached, what the Wolf will be attached to. Also some movies that are going to be coming out that I've done with my fiance. Luckily, I met someone that is also in the industry, and we can make films together like I've always wanted to. Yeah, I think that there's going to be a couple albums that are going to come. I want to do it fast because the Wolf took some time. I went through a huge transition in my life, and it kind of delayed things. So I can't let that happen again. I just want to start shooting straight from the hip again.
So to keep up on all that, what's the best way to find out? Is it Instagram?
Definitely, my Instagram at Wes Cage Coppola is a great place to be in contact with me and to see what kind of music and acting I'm doing, and also to see some of my surreal and absurd humor that I do with some of my movies. I call them microfilms. I make little short films that are absolutely ridiculous and just random humor. And then also I post some of my MMA history and stuff on that. Yeah, I think people will really enjoy it. And then of course, yeah, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes.
And in closing, where do we look for Blasco's stuff?
For his
Yeah, how do we keep up on Blasco? Because, who's plugging Blasco?
Exactly. Well, he's a total metal god. You could see his stuff. He did the bass on Educated Horses, which was my favorite Rob Zombie album, of course. And then there's incredible videos of Blasco on YouTube, and his Instagram's radical too. I mean, you could see all the philanthropic stuff that he does, and he also wrote a book called Diary of a Catman, which is his autobiography, which is awesome.
Instead of Diary of a Madman with his old boss Ozzy, Diary of a Catman. Man,
Yep.
You metal people are geniuses. Paltrocast. Mickey, how was your day going aside from talking to me and it being a Monday?
Well, it's a little bit earlier here on the West Coast, but it's going okay. We kind of had an unexpected visit from some plumbers just a little while ago, but thankfully we got that business taken care of and out of the way for now. But other than that, everything's looking pretty good. It's a beautiful day here in Rancho Mirage, California.
And you're pretty on brand because you have the double A-side Christmas single, yet
Yeah.
you have the Christmas tree behind you.
I
So
do, yeah.
when did you actually record the single?
We recorded it in September, both of them in September in Nashville. We did it, the session was like one afternoon. We went in and cut both the songs in about 5 to 6 hours. Some great studio musicians in Nashville, so they were really really quick and really knew what they were doing, and we worked out the arrangements and tweaked it a little bit in the studio, and it was just a great experience and a lot of fun as well.
Did Dan Frizzell provide the musicians, or you knew these players?
Dan set it all up. Dan is good friends with my manager, Chris Harden, and they've been buddies since college. So he reached out to Dan, and Dan works a lot in Nashville, and he set it all up for us and put together a great group of players.
Got it. Did you know
Yeah.
outright, hey, this is a Mickey release and not a Starship release?
Right. I decided to go with that because first of all, it just felt so personal, the two songs, and then the fact that I was using, studio musicians rather than the Starship band. So as it evolved, it just felt naturally that it was more of a Mickey Thomas project than a Starship project.
Paltrocast. Hey, yo, check 1, 2. This is Flavor Flav, and I don't disappear fast. Because right now, you are watching the Paltrocast. Paltrocast.